Thank you for the question through the chair to the leader of the Green Party. I think that I think you make a valid point in terms of the aspirational goal here and how we can achieve it. The document, though, that's produced in the report, I would suggest that that's probably the place to look and say, does it give us enough information to meaningfully suggest and determine whether we're on the path to achieve that goal, or there's an issue that we are having difficulty in achieving and bring it to the forefront. So while it is the responsibility of our COO to look at any aspect of what we've committed to and what departments are committed to, and then to put the resources in where necessary to follow and meet those commitments, I appreciate your comments that we don't want to wake up 8 years from now and say, well, shoot, we can't get there. We just can't achieve this. We need to know in advance of the hurdles and then decide how do we deal with those hurdles if indeed they can be dealt with. So I'm not concerned about the fact that we can put the horsepower required to make the decisions necessary, but I feel that the department has to take responsibility for this, as that's where it lies, and then we have to monitor progress. And I would say, and I will take this as well, to look in detail at that report and say, is this telling us enough information that we know where we are and that we actually have an ability to achieve this target by this time frame, which was committed to in I guess in 2016.
Well, the commitment was made in 2016, and it's now 2021, so that's 5 years of no progress, as far as I can tell, on that one. But let me go to another important commitment around government leading and organizing around our response to the climate crisis, and that is. The Executive Council is in part supposed to be able to support special committees of Cabinet. The Climate Action Strategy committed to the creation of a special committee of Cabinet dedicated solely to the issue of climate change, chaired by the Premier, to oversee actually the implementation of the overall action plan. So my question is, well, and they go hand in hand, does the committee exist, and has ECO allocated resources to provide the necessary support?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, back to the leader of the Green Party. So the program is funded. It's funded this year, but it wasn't funded separately, but is funded now as to create this the Climate Change Fund Advisory Board. When we look at the commitment now with the funding in place, that it should be achieved and up and running by mid-year, and that would be the goal. And so this lies within environment again. The Climate Change Act identifies that a minimum of 4 members be appointed to a Climate Change Fund Advisory Board, and but apparently, it is not prescriptive as to who could sit on the board, but we would ask for recommendations from environment in that regard, and others in relation to set up. But let's target having it up and running by mid-year.
Thank you for that response, but you must have misunderstood. Through you, Mr. Chair, my question was about the Cabinet Committee dedicated solely to the issue of climate change, chaired by the Premier. In fact, it was the very first commitment in the Climate Action Plan. Now, let me read from the Climate Action Plan. The provincial government must take a strong leadership role in addressing the challenges and opportunities presented by a changing climate. To be successful in addressing climate change, the provincial government must provide the governance structure and support necessary to succeed and ensure the proper accountability for the implementation of New Brunswick's climate actions. This rests in the centre of government. This rests in ECO. This commitment was to establish a cabinet committee to ensure this happens, chaired by the Premier. Has this happened?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, back to the leader of the Green Party. I think that we've certainly made some pretty big strides in relation to addressing climate action items, and not only with the what we talked earlier about the number of items through the IBF program that are actually being moved forward, and the money being committed in that regard federally, provincially, municipally. We also have put the 36 million in from the carbon tax. We adopted the carbon tax federal program, and I would say, even though it went through a lengthy process legally, we adopted it a couple of years ago, or a little less than that. The review and had a special committee of cabinet. I appreciate it has to be driven from the top. I think there's certainly areas that we would have demonstrated that we're certainly doing that. I need to look at this recommendation from 16 and how that would function best, and because I guess at this stage I'm not necessarily convinced that needs to be set up independently to do this, but I appreciate it has to be driven from the Premier's office and from Cabinet in order to get the results needed. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm concerned that to be driven by the Premier's office and Cabinet, there's got to be someone with designated responsibility to do so. So far, I haven't heard it with respect to this budget. And I perhaps wouldn't be dwelling on it as much if in the budget speech it hadn't said that the intent was to make sure that 75% of the climate action plan commitments were fully implemented. So to drive that is no small task. That's a reasonably ambitious goal, which is good to see. But to drive it, you need someone with both hands on the wheel somewhere at the center of government, and I'm not hearing that staff time under this budget is being allocated for that at ECO, or the Premier's yet willing to do that at the level of Cabinet by chairing a committee. But let me ask one final question on special committees of Cabinet. Is there a committee of Cabinet planned to help coordinate and oversee the recovery from the pandemic? Is that something being contemplated through this budget?
Question, and through the chair back to the leader. At this stage, if you look at the indicators for New Brunswick and compare it to the national, we're doing well. I'm not sure what the value of a separate COVID recovery committee would be at this stage. What we're seeing from ONB and the tremendous activity in that area, being led by the Deputy Minister, I just see we're seeing companies come forward, we're seeing our recovery, we're seeing, according to national standards, according to where we were before COVID, we're moved back, and the financial institutions are saying we will be back to where we were quicker than just about any other province. So I'm not sure that creating another committee is necessary or would serve a function now that would be needed at this stage of the pandemic.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Premier and his staff thank you for your answers and your work, and those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.